President Trump saying today that the American people will soon find out if the United States is going to war with Iran, saying the regime made a very big mistake shooting down a U.S. military surveillance drone like the one you see on your screen at 4:05 a.m. Iranian time over the Strait of Hormuz. Take a look at this map. Iran says the U.S. drone violated its airspace, and they claim they shot down the drone right off its coast. U.S. officials counter that claim. They call it categorically false. They say the drone was shot down in international airspace south and to the west. Right now, top congressional leaders are in the Situation Room at the White House being briefed. This all coming as the Pentagon is deploying an additional 1,000 troops to the region as a deterrent against what the Trump administration calls increased Iranian aggression. We have this story covered from the White House to the Capitol to the streets of Tehran. We're going to begin with Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Barbara, what type of military options is the Pentagon considering?
Well, Jake, right now the Pentagon has been focused on defense and deterrence against Iran, but at this hour, all of that could change. Murky new video released by the Pentagon of a U.S. Navy drone being shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile may be the moment that changes everything. It's hard to make out, but the smoke plume is visible as the drone falls into the waters of the Strait of Hormuz. This map showing the missile launched from the Iranian coastline more than 20 miles away from the drone, according to the Pentagon. Iran's Revolutionary Guard releasing its own video showing what it says is the moment of the shootdown. When asked about a U.S. military response, President Trump playing his cards close to the vest in the initial hours.
Now, Iran made a big mistake.
Military commanders behind the scenes are not looking for a march to war, but they are not excusing the attack, highlighting the international nature of the Iranian threat.
This was an unprovoked attack on a U.S. surveillance asset that had not violated Iranian airspace at any time during its mission.
But Iran claims the American drone was in Iranian airspace and had its own dire warning.
We have no intention to fight with any countries, but we are completely ready for war. What happened today was an obvious sign of this accurate message.
Tensions have been rising for weeks. In early May, the Pentagon sent an aircraft carrier strike group, Patriot missile defenses, and fighter jets in the wake of intelligence the U.S. said showed Iran was planning an attack. Then, Iran is believed to have attacked commercial tankers last month and again last week, using mines to leave gaping holes, leading to another 1,000 troops being sent for further deterrence of Iran. Now, if there's a determination that this deterrence strategy just is not working, what is the next step? The question is there a limited type of military strike you could take against Iran without it leading to all-out war? Jake?
All right, Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Let's go now to Tehran. CNN's senior international correspondent Fred Pleitgen is on the ground in the Iranian capital. Fred, how are the Iranians responding to this threat from President Trump?
Well, the Iranians are certainly saying that they're not going to back down. And I think the Iranians also very clearly heard some of the words that President Trump was saying, essentially indicating that he thinks that it might have been a mistake on the part of the Iranians that this drone was shot down. But the Iranians are very clearly saying, no, this was not a mistake. If you look at here, some of the voices that are on that video that was just in Barbara's report, those are not the kind of guys who think they've just made a mistake. And the Iranians essentially are saying they believe that this drone was in their own territorial airspace, and that's why they shot it down. If you look at Iran's foreign minister, for instance, Jake, he's now getting involved in this. He even put out coordinates of where he said that this drone was shot down. That puts it about 9 miles off Iran's coast, and so the Iranians are saying that they had every right to shoot this drone down. At the same time, a dire warning coming from the Iranians to the U.S., the Iranians saying this is what Iran does with its enemies, and essentially saying, yes, this was a clear message to the United States that if it gets too close, this is what the Iranians are going to do. And of course, Jake, all of this comes as the tensions here have been boiling over and continue to boil over. And one of the things that the Iranians have been telling us again and again and again is that if this escalates, Jake, they say the Americans are not only going to be facing Iran's regular military, but all of its proxy forces in the region as well, Jake.
All right, Fred Pleitkin in Tehran, Iran. Thank you so much. Joining me now to discuss this is Democratic Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland. He serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, have you been briefed on the latest intel on the shoot down of the drone? Is there definitive proof that it was shot down where the Pentagon says it was shot down as opposed to where the Iranians say it was shot down?
Well, Jake, it's good to be with you. We were briefed this week before the drone was shot down in the situation with Iran. There's no question that Iran is the bad actor. They're the ones doing these things that are against international norms, violating international agreements. But the tensions couldn't be higher, and the chances of a miscalculation are very, very high. It's our responsibility to try to calm things down. The Trump policies have sort of heated things up, and now the danger point is even greater than it was before. But clearly, Iran's the bad actor. We've got to try to re-engage the international community to isolate Iran rather than isolate America.
So you think the U.S. should respond diplomatically and not militarily? Is that what I'm hearing you saying? Further isolation diplomatically and economically?
Yeah, I think militarily would be a mistake. There is no such thing as a limited military response right now that could not be used as justification to escalate a military conflict in the region. That's not in the United States' interest.
Senator, the Iranians have made it very clear that this was not a mistake, that they shot down this drone on purpose. But take a listen to President Trump earlier today suggesting that maybe this was all just a mistake.
I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did. I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid.
What's going on there? Is there any evidence you've seen this was a mistake? Do you think the president is trying to provide the Iranians and perhaps himself with an out? Why say that this was a mistake when it clearly wasn't?
That may be the case. I think the concern here is that there will be a miscalculation, and a miscalculation can lead us into an unnecessary military conflict. So I hope what the president was saying, let's find a way that we can calm things down. No, we're not going to back away from Iran's actions have to be changed. They cannot continue to support terrorism. They can't develop their nuclear programs. We need to get back to diplomacy in order to accomplish that, and we need to have the support of our traditional allies.
Is there a way to retaliate against Iran militarily, not economically or diplomatically, but militarily, without the risk that it devolves into a full-scale war resulting in attacks against U.S. forces stationed throughout the region and thousands of innocent people killed?
Jake, please understand that the sanctions that we've imposed against Iran are powerful. It's affecting their daily lives. It's much more effective than using our military, which only leads to additional military actions. So to me, the proper response is to isolate Iran. Sanctions help us do that. Getting on the same page as our traditional allies, getting the international community to recognize that Iran's activities and now threats in regards to nuclear programs are against international norms. Let's try to get back to the type of coalition we had before in isolating Iran.
The White House said there was recent intelligence showing the possibility of Iran using proxy forces to attack U.S. interests in the Middle East. What can you tell us about that? Is that Iran planning to use proxies to kill American soldiers in Iraq? What did that intelligence suggest?
Well, traditionally, it's been Iran supporting proxy forces, that they help groups in different parts of the world, including in Iraq, including in Syria, that are, including certainly in Yemen, which are against our interests. It'd be rare to see those assets being used against America other than in the theaters in which they're operating currently. So I think it's more the fact that Iran supports these groups than these groups are supporting Iran.
Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, sir.
Good to be with you.